everyone. Welcome to the Endurance Nutrition Show. We're here with a special guest, Jamie Linde, and she is the first female Everester on the bike in Utah, and so far the only female Everester here in Utah. So we're just going to talk about just everything. We're just going to learn about her and learn about what it means to Everest on the bike and learn how she powers herself with nutrition.
Break the ice. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to, on our podcast and our show, every time we're going to have a food segment. So basically we're going to either be eating something that we like or sampling a product, some sort of nutrition product. But today we're lucky to try Jamie's mystery food item that she eats after every century or really long bike ride. So Elise and I do not know what this mystery item is. Only Jamie does. So
yeah, hopefully we're still friends after this. So, like you said, I it's basically a shot that I take after really long rides because it has a lot of sodium. It just tastes really good to me. So if you guys want to unveil it, you don't have to drink the whole thing.
No. What is this?
So you're looking at, well, I don't know how much you have there.
Wait,
but
should we guess? Should we just drink
yeah,
it and
do you
then
guess?
guess?
You can.
Is it barbecue sauce?
It's not barbecue sauce.
It smells like Worcestershire sauce.
Yeah.
I'm really nervous. Okay. Emily, your container of this is bigger than mine.
It's huge.
You don't have to do the whole
Okay,
thing.
let's do one big swig.
Okay. It's a lot.
Whoa.
So that's A1 sauce.
I've never. It's not. I really like Worcestershire sauce, but can't say I've ever taken a swig of it.
Wait, is it A1 sauce or Worcestershire?
It's A1, but A1 has Worcestershire.
Oh.
I kind of want some more.
It sounds really gross, and it kind of is gross, but after long rides, it's all that sodium, but that's just like what my body craves. So I just throw back a little shot of A1.
Me and Emily have been like trying to guess what this is. Emily was guessing pickles. I think we also guessed mustard because that's like that's common.
Really gross.
I would rather eat A1 sauce than mustard.
Oh yeah.
Okay, but I am gonna
wash it down
a little bit. Yeah. Well, you definitely surprised us.
Yeah.
So after your next long ride, when you're feeling depleted, just throw back a little swig of A1.
Okay, Jamie, let's get into the thick of it.
All right.
So just how long have you been into cycling? And just let us kind of give us a general background of how long you've been cycling and kind of your history with sports and cycling.
Well, I would say I haven't been into cycling that long. I rode a bike growing up and whatnot, but it wasn't until my parents moved to Utah in, I think, 2015 that I really started riding. They brought my, not childhood, I guess, like teenagehood bike, my adolescent bike, with them when they moved, and I was like, oh, I want to ride my bike. So I got my bike, and I have 3 kids, and my youngest was about a year and a half at the time. So I got a little infant seat and got that on the bike, and then just started riding around. And then I decided it was a lot faster to ditch him, and then I got like a really basic aluminum frame road bike, and then just kind of got into it more from there. In 2018, though, that's when I first got into racing. Liz and Debbie, their teammates, you guys know them as well. They were like, hey, you should try, this race out in Tooele. And I was like, okay, sounds great. And I got hooked. So I went from recreational rider to I love it and I want to race all the time. Rider pretty fast. But so that's how I got into cycling. I haven't been doing it for very long. I would say history of sport, I feel like I'm fairly athletic. Not that that means I excel at everything. But I did gymnastics as a kid down in New Mexico, and I was actually New Mexican state champion.
Whoa.
Not so flexible anymore. I can't do that stuff. I played volleyball in middle school, and then my freshman year of high school, I did a season of cross country in high school. But my bread and butter was track and field. Like, I love track and field. I was primarily a sprinter. I just loved sprinting.
No wonder you're so good at sprinting on the bike too.
Translate.
Sweet. Well, thank you for that little background.
Yeah.
Next question for you is, we're curious because you're a busy mom. How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
So you're a busy mom of 3.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of a minority out there, mom with lots of kids, and you're a cyclist and you race. So we're curious, how does cycling training fit into your daily life?
Well, I don't know if it's an advantage. I feel like it's an advantage for me, my personality. I don't work. So my time is my own, really. Well, to a certain extent. My youngest is in kindergarten, so that's half day schooling still. So I kind of have to work around his schedule, because I'd rather not get a babysitter when I know he'll go to school for free. But, so I can kind of train when I want. It's usually when the kids are at school. But yeah, for me, cycling, I mean, it's something I love, but it's also a good emotional and like mental break for me. You can like kind of run away from children and life expectations and all of that. So it's a good emotional mental break for me, but so that places it high on my priority list. But I don't know. I just make it fit because I want to do it.
Nice. Awesome.
But I gotta say, my kids are like super great. They're really supportive about it. My husband too, he's like, hey, you need a ride, go get a ride. So that definitely makes it easy for me too.
And what about the nutrition aspect of that? Do you like in your daily meals, do you make those with cycling in mind and your training?
Yeah, I do. I would say I'm more concerned about my own nutrition than my kids' nutrition because they're so picky. So I kind of like hate cooking for them. But sometimes they'll eat what I eat. But I'd say most everything I eat revolves around, I don't know if it revolves around cycling or revolves around being healthy. I guess they're two in the same for me. But yeah, I try to put in good stuff so that I can feel good.
And what's like an example of something you eat?
My kind of go-to meal, I'll put it in like a tortilla or I'll make like a rice bowl out of it, or a salad is fajitas. So I'll either do it with or without chicken, but it's usually, sliced peppers and red onion. And I make pico every week, my own homemade pico. It usually has a lot of avocado in there. Just that's kind of my go-to. So, I'll eat it for lunch or I'll eat it for dinner, but that's my favorite.
Yum. You'll have to get us a recipe.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's jump into Everesting a little bit. So
Okay.
Will you tell us, what does it mean to Everest? What is that? And how did you hear about it originally?
Okay, so Everesting is for those who are crazy, I guess. You pick a hill and you do hill repeats until you climb the same elevation of Mount Everest, which I think is 10,000 meters. Now I can't even remember the exact number, but it's like 29,029 feet. Um, and so to be an official Everesting, there's a group called Hell's 500, and they put on this challenge. And to be an official Everester, you have to do all of that climbing in one ride on one hill, and you can't sleep at all. So it's kind of a big endeavor, but that's what an Everesting is. And I came across it. I have a friend. We lived in the Bay Area out in California before we moved to Utah, and I have a girlfriend out there who had posted a ride on Strava that said something like, "Still love the Tunitas," and all my friends or something. And I thought that's an interesting ride title. So I looked at her ride and I was like, "Oh my gosh, she rode." It was something like 190 miles and like 32,000 climbing feet, and it was like 24-hour ride. And I was like, what is this madness? Like, what did Suzanne do? So I talked to her about it a little bit, and she's like, oh, it's called an Everesting, and it's really awesome. You should do it one day. And I was like, okay, yeah, I want to. That's kind of how I stumbled across it.
That was how long ago that you saw that?
She did it the year before I did. So 20. So I did in 2019. Yeah, 20. So she did in 2018.
Gotcha.
So it only took you 1 year to plan and pull off a feat that big. That's pretty impressive.
Some people get they just pop it out. I'm not one. I like to have a lot of planning going into things. So yeah, it took me a year to plan it.
Yeah.
So what were some of those things that you did to prepare for it?
I looked at so many maps of hills in this area. That was one thing. I mean, you've got to pick like the right climb because you don't want to kill yourself. I feel like there's no way I was going to Everest on a 12% or something. That would just be awful. I also looked at time of year that I wanted to do it. I was really concerned with how much support I could get while riding. I felt like that could make or break it for me. What else went into it? All the training, obviously, so much climbing, but just factors like that.
Cool.
Tell us a little bit about your training strategy to prepare for that.
Yeah, training was a bit overwhelming. I just trying to come up with how to train for something like this, because there surprise there aren't really training plans on how to Everest. So I read every blog or article that I could find of someone who had Everested, and I kind of looked at what they had done for training, and I thought, okay, I'll try to mimic their training plans. But some of them were just absurd, and some of them, it was like training rides would be like 200 miles and 18,000 climbing feet. And in my head, I was thinking, if I'm going to do all that, I might as well just Everest while I'm, in the process of training for it. And then some of them were like, oh, I just decided to go do it. And, I wasn't going to do that. But my training, all the things I read, I ultimately ended up deciding that when I would go out for a training ride, because I was still racing, it was still race season while I was training, any climbing ride that I was going to do had to hit 100-foot rise for every mile that I rode, average. So, if I went and did 40 miles, I needed to at least average 4,000 climbing feet. Is that right? Yeah, 4,000 climbing feet. So that's kind of what I was aiming for when I was training. But yeah, just lots and lots of miles, a lot of elevation gain. And I would mix in threshold efforts on climbs with Everesting efforts, so I could kind of get used to what a cadence going slow felt like. So just all that good stuff in there.
Do you feel like your training prepared you well? Like when you were Everesting, did you feel like, I feel good?
Oh yeah. In fact, I don't want to like downplay like the amount of effort that goes into an Everesting, but the Everesting itself actually felt way easier than any of the training I did. And there are a few reasons for that. I mean, like I was very specific. I mean, in my head, I like had a certain pace that I wanted to keep. Like I didn't want to go too fast so I could continue to ride my bike through the fall months, because the fall months here are the best time to ride. But when you keep it at a slower pace than you've been training, it feels so easy.
Yeah. Interesting. So it sounds like you prepared yourself well physically. Was there any mental preparation that went into it, or?
I don't, I mean, there must have been, because you don't just go and do something like this without some kind of mental preparation. But I never thought I wouldn't do it. I mean, from the moment I saw Suzanne's ride, I was like, oh, I want to do that. I'm going to do that. And then all throughout the training, there were some rides that were really hard, and I thought, ooh, man, this is going to be tough. I don't know, this is really going to suck. But there was never a point where I thought, I can't do this. I don't think I'm going to succeed. So mentally, I just didn't allow myself to go to a place where I thought I couldn't do it.
And did you reflect to your training while you were in the middle of your Everesting, where, if it got hard, you kind of reflected back on other challenges that you had already got through?
I don't actually feel like I did, because the things that were hard about Everesting in the moment weren't what I struggled with in training rides. Like training rides, I would have heat bonking problems, or my legs would fatigue. But when I was Everesting, I didn't have those problems. The problem was the sleep issue. I was just, it took 24, well, I was out for 28 hours, but I was climbing or riding for 23 and a half. And so I'm not sleeping at all. So that is what I struggled with. But it's just not something I experienced during a training ride, because, I would sleep for training rides.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your overall experience from start to finish. Kind of break it down for us. What was it like? What did you eat?
What did I eat? I ate a lot of stuff. Overall, it was probably one of the best experiences of my life.
Whoa.
Which sounds crazy.
Yeah.
But it really, I mean, from conception to completion, it was like such a fantastic experience. I am totally in the camp of everyone needs to Everest at some point in their life.
All right, we'll add it to our bucket list.
Yeah.
It just, to push yourself to do something like that, well, for Utah specifically, no other woman had done. And at the time that I had committed to Everesting, I think there had only been like 6 or 7 men who had done it. Actually, it might have even been fewer than that. It might have been 6 or 7 by the time I did it. Anyways, not very many people. So, just
here in Utah, right?
Difficult. Just here in Utah. I don't know. It's, you push yourself and you set expectations that you're not really sure if you can reach or not, but you'd like to. And then just seeing your progression through that and like actually accomplishing it, it just makes the whole experience like really sweet. So I thought it was fantastic.
I was like kind of curious if you would like walk us through like when you started, through like the moments that got really hard. Were there ever moments that you wanted to give up, or were you always just like, I can do this?
For the actual Everesting, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I can say that I never thought it was so hard that I would give up. That's for sure. I think that point specifically, the hardest, there was 1 hour that was really hard for me, and it's not. I mean, hard can be classified in a lot of different ways, but the 1 hour that was super hard for me was the 3 a.m. hour. Both of you were there actually, and I was so tired. I was just like, my legs felt great. My body was performing for me. Like, I could just sit on the bike and I spin up the mountain. So that, like, everything felt good, but I was just so tired. I just wanted to sleep. And so that was the only moment where I was like, I don't know if I can stay awake for another like 10 hours or something. Like, it's a long time to stay awake. But Emily brought these awesome caffeine shoes that like totally saved my bacon. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm awake again. But start to finish,
Because what time did you start at?
so I started at, I want to say at like 8 or 9. I can't remember the exact time.
A.M.
I woke up at like, yeah, excuse me. I woke up at like 6 a.m. the morning of 8, got ready, and then went over to the mouth of the canyon, and it was raining. So I had to wait a little bit. But yeah, 8 or 9 a.m. And then I finished like 28 hours later or something at like noon. So I started a Tuesday, finished a Wednesday at noon. Yeah, so it's a long time to go without sleep, you guys.
Yeah.
That's definitely the hardest part. But that first morning I felt great. I did the first lap by myself so I could kind of have an idea of what pace I wanted to go at, before I had other riders join me and I get, distracted or whatever. I like knew this is where I need to be at. And then people just, they came all day, all night, the next day. So I never felt like there were times where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore, or I don't think I can, because I always had someone there. I mean, it was a continuous bike party, and bike parties are fun. So I don't know. I don't really know how else to describe it other than I just rode my bike and I always had someone with me, and it made it incredibly easy because I wasn't ever by myself.
And so would you go ahead?
Oh, I was going to say, remind me the lap length and about the distance and the time it took to do each lap.
Mm-hmm. So I did the mouth of Big Cottonwood Canyon to the bottom of the S curve. And a lap, according to Hills 500, is up and down. So my lap length was about 8 miles. But going up is, I think it's just over 4 for that segment of my climb. And you gain 1,200 climbing feet in those 4 miles, which isn't a ton, but it has what I think is the hardest part of Big Cottonwood Canyon, which is Storm Mountain. I mean, if you don't count Guardsman, I think Storm Mountain's a good little push. But I felt like it was a perfect segment, perfect little lap for me. And the lap total time, it took about an hour. I think it was like an 8-minute descent, but it took an hour total.
So you had to do 29 of those? Is that right?
I needed 24.2 laps to hit the official Everesting mark, but I did 25 laps as a little insurance in there.
Nice. So it sounds like the cycling community played a pretty big role in helping you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So,
I was just going to say, just reflecting back to when me and Emily were there, we went around midnight and then started with her probably around 1 a.m. Mm-hmm. And at the bottom of Big Cottonwood Canyon, there's this big parking lot, and there's there's an outhouse and stuff. But someone brought an RV. Who was that?
Mm-hmm. Steve Hansen. He's on our team, Zone 5.
Okay.
He reached out and was like, hey, I'm really excited about this for you. I would love to support you. Can I bring my trailer as like base camp for you? And I was like, sure. I feel like that's like the kindest offer ever, you know, and I think people enjoyed having it there. I think you maybe even took a nap in it.
Yes. No, that's what I was about to say. Like me and Emily started at 1 and like I did 1 lap and I was just like, I'm really tired. I was so tired. And so I took a nap in the trailer because I felt like I just couldn't stay up on my bike kind of. And I remember that it was pretty windy too. Like there was kind of like crosswinds and stuff at that time of night. Was it just during the night that it was windy or?
Yeah. So with the canyons, you know, when it starts to get cooler, all that cold air rushes down out of the canyon. So it's like in the evening, that's when you start getting the headwind, and then all through the night, and then in the morning as well. But then when the sun finally comes up, you get the tailwind of the canyon. So nighttime, there were definitely some headwinds, and around Storm Mountain, just that little, I don't know what you call it, just the way the road curves, it does become kind of like crosswind, and just, I don't know, lovely winds.
Yeah, so I was only able to last one lap with Jamie, but then Emily was the supportive friend who covered like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Yeah.
Well, I took one of those caffeine chocolates, and actually it's really crazy because I was not even tired the next day after taking one of those. Like
they work really well.
They're very powerful. I think I didn't sleep. I almost didn't sleep for 2 days. I only took a nap for like an hour because I like don't take caffeine very often, and those are slow release.
I don't
so
either.
I just they kept me up way long for a long time. But
I had the same experience with those. When I finished, I took a 1 hour nap, but it was like 1 hour nap and 40 hours of being awake. So they worked really well. They kept me up.
Yeah. So if anybody out there wants to Everest, you should get your hands on some of those caffeine.
What are they? What's
chocolates.
The brand? Do you remember?
I can't remember. I'll have to. We can post a link.
Energy
chews.
Yeah. They work really
I think
great.
They're actually
one thing that I really liked about them is that they like didn't upset my stomach. Like usually when I take caffeine, like I'll start feeling bloated, or it just like makes me feel sick after a while, but those didn't. I didn't feel like I had like an energy spike or anything. I just felt nice and stable, which was nice.
Yeah. They're slow release, like they're 8-hour release, and so it slowly releases the caffeine over a period of 8 hours rather than like all at once. So we can post a link if anybody wants to look into those.
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of leads us into another question we had is, what was recovery like for you? Like after you were done, how did you feel? And then the next, week or so after that,
did you take one big swig of this?
I didn't, honestly. No, I didn't actually, because nutrition was like totally different for an Everesting than when I'm like hammering out a century or whatever. Recovery was something I was pretty concerned about. We have a teammate, Troy, who had Everested a few years before me. And, he had given me some thoughts about recovery, and he felt like just some hard efforts took a while to bounce. Well, he didn't feel recovered for hard efforts for like 2 months after he had Everested. And he had done his a bit more of an aggressive pace than I did. So it makes sense. But my main goal was to Everest and then come out of it so that I could continue riding, like I said, in the fall. And because I had been doing these long training rides where I was either focusing on Everesting efforts or just doing, shorter threshold efforts, I never felt like I got to go chase down some climbing PRs. So I really, really wanted to be able to attack some climbs after I Everested and set new personal bests. So recovery, I will say, was quite pleasant. When I first got home, I was so tired. I took my hour nap. My knees actually were killing me, not because of the strain of the climbing, but just because they were in the same position for 28 hours. Like they're never fully flexing or extending, so it just makes your joints really stiff. But I finished at like noon on Wednesday, and Thursday night I went out with the Lifetime group. Just I didn't do the whole group ride that they do on Thursday nights, but I did like 15 miles or something. And then Friday I rode, Saturday I rode, Sunday I took off. It's almost like I never missed a beat with my riding because my legs felt great. My body felt great. The hardest thing to recover was just the sleep. I felt exhausted for like 2 or 3 weeks. It took me a while to feel like I finally caught up on all the sleep. And maybe someone in their 20s wouldn't be bothered by it, but I have 3 kids and I'm getting older, so sleep is hard to recover. But as far as recovery goes, I was really, really pleased. It was just like my neck and my shoulders that really bothered me for a while, but everything else is like I can still ride.
And what did you eat to recover?
Gosh, that first day I wasn't even hungry, but I knew I had to eat. So I think I did chicken and rice that first meal I got home, but I don't really remember because, no sleep. So it's like this mental fog. I just remember thinking to myself, you need to eat something every few hours and hydrate. So I did. But it wasn't until like Sunday that I actually felt hungry again, where I was like, oh, I'd like to eat food. So, I mean, I ate, but.
Wow. So like Wednesday till Sunday, you were just kind of not very hungry.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
But I think that's probably the whole exhaustion factor. When your body is so tired, the other needs aren't really prioritized in your head. But.
What did I'm not sure we got much of this, but what were some of the things that you ate while you were like on the bike Everesting?
So I made banana bread, and I ate a lot of banana bread. So, okay, I was out for 28 hours, right? The first 12 hours, I actually ate real food. And that was one thing I focused on my training rides. For races, I would do like Carborocket and gels and blocks and goos and like all those things like fast fuel. But for training rides, I stuck to real food. I only ate real food, like rice cakes, and I can't even think of other things that I'd bring, but like bananas and whatnot. So when I Everested, I really tried to stick to the real food still. So I would do banana bread. Oh gosh, and I can't remember the name of the book. It's like the Feed Zone or something. They have this apple pie recipe, like a pocket-sized handheld apple pie recipe that I used. So I ate a couple of those. Slim Jim, those like beef jerky sticks. I like those a lot. I had a lot of those. I had some Stroop waffles. What else did I eat? I can't really remember. I brought candy thinking I'd want candy, and I had a Snickers bar at like, I don't know, 2 a.m, and it was the most disgusting thing I had ever eaten. Like, and I love Snickers, but for some reason, all that sugar just, I wanted to gag. Yeah, I can't remember what else I ate. Anyway, so I ate real food for the first 12 hours, and I was eating every 20 minutes. So the climb, it's like the first 2 miles are kind of flat. It's like 2 to 5%. So that would be my eat zone. And then I'd hit Storm Mountain, which was steeper. And then at the top of the Storm Mountain, it would flatten out for another half mile again. So then I would eat there as well, because there were about 20 minutes between those 2 feed zones, and then descend and start the whole process over again. So when you're eating every 20 minutes for 12 hours, I don't know if this happens for other people, but for me, I got chew fatigue. Like my jaw just didn't want to chew anymore. Like, no more. It wasn't I don't want to eat. It was I don't want to chew. So
you just didn't train your jaw enough, I guess.
I didn't train my jaw enough. So at that point, halfway through, I was like, ooh, I missed 2 feed zones. That's an hour. If I'm not staying on top of my nutrition, this is tanking. Like, no matter how slow I'm going or how good my legs feel, like, this isn't going to happen if I'm not fueling myself. So at that point, I had to change tactics, and I went back to my fallback of Carborocket, and I drank Carborocket for the next 12 hours. So,
wow, that's a long time to be drinking.
It is a long time. Mm-hmm. But it was the only way I could get it in at that point, because I could not chew anymore.
Did you ever go back and calculate like how many calories you ate or anything like that?
I never did.
That would be really interesting.
It would be interesting. I mean, I could probably figure out the Carborocket part, because it'd be like 222 calories for 12 hours, because I would do a bottle an hour. So whatever 220 times 12 is. And then the other half, I don't know. But that would have been an interesting stat.
A lot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I looked at your write-up, and I liked how you have this list of all the things you brought, all the food items you brought, and then the things that you actually ate. And so when I edit the video, I'll put that up on the screen for everyone to see. But yeah, it's because didn't you bring, I thought I saw that you brought rice cakes, but you didn't actually eat them during the Everesting.
I didn't actually eat them. Yeah. Which is funny, because I loved him on my training rides, but during the Everesting, I don't know, I didn't want him. So, yeah.
Crazy. But
sometimes for that long stuff, your body starts actually, especially as a woman, your body starts utilizing fat.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe that was part of it. Like,
body wanted fat, not the carbs.
Yeah. Or, I mean, obviously you need the carbs, but like, maybe you just.
But like, banana bread has way more fat in it than rice cakes. So.
And the pie, totally were you eating the pies during it?
Yeah, I think I only had 2 or 3 of those, but yeah.
Those sound good. I wanna try making those.
They're pretty good. It like tastes like an apple pie, but it has more salt in it, so it's like almost savory when you're on the bike. It's not like an apple pie you would normally think, I guess.
So like salted caramel
apple
pie.
Yeah. It was
Maybe
good.
We'll have to make that on our next episode.
It's better than A1.
Yeah, why couldn't you give us the good stuff? Cool. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to add about Everesting?
I would just say, when I think back on my Everesting, it was 6 months ago now. The thing that like I look back with the most fondness, or even get the most emotional about, is not the fact that I accomplished that or that I was the first woman to do it. It's actually the incredible support that I got from the cycling community here. I mean, the cycling community is full of a lot of cool and fun and awesome people, but just the fact that I had between 30 and 40 riders, not even people who came to support that don't ride, but just riders, come at all hours of the day. It really opens your eyes and gives you a greater appreciation for the community here. I mean, this wasn't anyone else's dream, no one else was Everesting. So it's just really neat to see people sacrifice, time or equipment or sleep to come ride with me. I put out a spreadsheet asking for people to come at different times, so I had an idea of if I needed my husband to ride with me if no one came or not. But every time slot was filled, I had 3 or 4 different guys text me, and they're like, hey, I'm planning on coming and riding with you in the middle of the night because I don't want you to be alone in the dark, like it, just seeing that kind of sacrifice for my dream. Like, I love the cycling community here, and I will be like forever grateful for them. I mean, they totally made this dream happen for me. So cyclists are awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, it was fun to be a part of, and like you said, just it was cool that you were able to bring everyone together to do that for you.
It's pretty remarkable.
So, we have some rapid fire questions.
Ooh.
we were talking about this before with Jamie, and I was like, what about like these weird questions? And then she came up with the idea of like just trying to do some rapid fire questions in all of our interviews.
So curious.
So okay.
They're not too invasive, so don't be too scared.
Okay.
You might have heard. Well, you know what one of these is, but the rest are a surprise. Okay, first question. For you, is food more business or pleasure? Like, you see a cookie and are you like, yum, a cookie?
Pleasure.
Okay. That was an easy one.
Yeah.
Next question. If you were a macronutrient, what would you be?
Ooh. Emily, if this isn't a macronutrient, you can just tell me, but I'd have to say a mineral. Is that a macro?
No, it's not. But it's okay. It's okay. We want to know your explanation.
For the mineral?
Yeah.
So my daughter was like super sick last year and she was in the hospital for a week. But I just had no idea how important minerals were for your body. Like, I know you get them through all your food and whatnot. But it's like she had depleted on all these different minerals and her like organs were shutting down. And it's just like incredible to see that something so small had such a big impact. But if we're going to go macro, I'll say carbs because I love carbs.
We all love carbs. That's why we're cyclists, right?
Yep.
Just as a mini lesson, macronutrients are just carbs, fats, and proteins. But then there's micronutrients, and those are all the minerals.
Okay, so micro.
So
you still need them. So.
Jamie's just rebel. Wants to be the opposite of.
That's right.
But I liked that. I liked that explanation. Would you rather do a crit or a hill climb?
A crit.
There you go. The Everester herself prefers a crit. She is a very fast route. Yeah, she is a very good sprinter and a very good crit racer.
Thanks.
Okay, this final question. This is in light of our COVID days right now.
Yes.
So we're supposedly all supposed to get an $1,000 check in the mail. And assuming that all your bills are paid and that you're not going to put this in savings, what are you going to spend your $1,000 on?
Well, I thought about it.
She already knows.
I want a lot of bibs. More bibs. More bibs. Because I just bought new shoes, and I just got some new wheel sets. So that, those big items are already purchased.
Gotta protect that booty.
Gotta protect it.
Where's your favorite bibs from? Do you have a favorite place to get bib shorts?
So I know everyone's not a fan, but one of my most favorite pairs is actually a Pearl Izumi, but they don't make it anymore. So it makes me really sad. But then my other favorite is actually my Everesting kit. Cure makes it, and I like love their bibs. So assuming it's over in Switzerland, assuming they'll still send them out right now with COVID going on, that's where I'll get another kit. So
Nice. I'll have to check them out. I haven't heard of them.
yeah, I like them.
Sweet.
I've seen them on, I think in your pictures actually. They always look they look very comfortable. So
Yeah, I like it. But I mean, no two butts are the same, so to each their own.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on our podcast / YouTube channel.
Yes, I loved it. You guys are always a party.
And for those of you watching, if there's anyone else you want us to interview or any topics you want us to cover, shoot us a message and we'd be happy to do that. So,
all right.
Okay. Well, stay safe out there, everyone. Stay healthy. Keep riding your bike.
Stay healthy, stay safe. That's the season's greetings for right now. So stay healthy. Peace.
Bye.